Good afternoon. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jeff Boyd, and I moved into the CFO role for the Garden City Co-op in October. I've been with the company for about 15 years now, and prior to that, I was the IT manager, and previously that, I worked with the grain, petroleum, and crop production divisions. So I'm going to give you an update today on the financial results of your co-op over the previous fiscal year, and then touch on some highlights for the financials of it within each commodity group. So we're going to start with the balance sheet that you should find on page 5 of your handout. As a reminder, this is a point-in-time snapshot at the close of business on August 31st of 2016. So as you can see, our total assets of your co-op were down roughly $6.5 million to end at $152 million. This was mainly due to the reduced inventory values that we saw, particularly in grain. Our grain inventories were basically cut in half versus the previous fiscal year. So sliding down the balance sheet there, as you can see, we can continue to fulfill our goal of aggressively paying off of all of our debt. The total current and long-term notes payable were reduced by over $7,135,000 compared to last year. Other balance sheet items in there were consistent with last year's values. Your total ending members' equity in your co-op was $84,662,391. Of that, roughly $46 million of that is in retained earnings. Next, we'll move on to the income statement, which should be on the next page. Your co-op was successful this year thanks mostly to increased volumes, particularly with the large fall 15 and wheat harvest and 16 harvests that we had. Those volumes helped us have a better year than last year, but the tough times in the agriculture sector are definitely being felt. At the bottom of that page, you'll see the net savings. And when comparing it to the previous fiscal year, you'll see we're about $751,000 above last year. On the slide, you can see the last 5 years of those net savings and the trends, and that the last 2 years have obviously been a lot lower than the previous ones. Moving into the individual commodity groups, margins in grain this year were very squeezed, especially in the feed grains and the corn and the milo, those margins were roughly half of what we would expect. The wheat market this year did have a lot of carry in it, which kind of told us to hold on to that wheat and wait for the value to appreciate. But for your co-op, we felt that a fall harvest with adequate space was more important. So Ken this year executed a plan to arbitrage some wheat, and we moved all that wheat out to make room for you for your fall harvest. We had our elevators as empty as we ever have to receive that fall crop. The large fall harvests that we had in 2015 and the large one in 2016 for wheat, they did come with a lot of very large expenses. We had to move a lot of grain around to keep your elevators open. And you saw that with all the ground piles. The total expenses for that ground pile expenses across all of our elevators and then the transportation expenses to move that grain around amounted to over $1,051,000 this last fiscal year. So we made some operational decisions in grain and that increased our expenses, and then the reduced grain margins this year reduced our profitability, but we hope that equated to increased service for you at the fall harvest. Next, in crop production, we did have increased sales for fertilizer this year, but just like the grain, those are coming at a reduced margin. The exciting thing that's going on in crop production, though, is the rollout of our Precision Ag program in partnership with MZB. We hope that this adoption and utilization of technology will help improve the agronomic value that we're providing back to you on your farms. In petroleum, our fuel volumes to our commercial and wholesale markets were down, which reduces the patronage that we receive from CHS. Fortunately, though, our investment in our low fuel storage tanks continue to work and allow us to provide you with a reliable supply of diesel while the Scott City Fuel Terminal continues to have supply issues each year. Next, we'll move on to the important numbers that you really care about. This year, we're allocating a total of $1,309,630 for patronage, and we will continue with 30% of that being returned to you in cash. This breaks down to 3.01 cents per hundredweight for your grain, 5.45% on your grain storage, 1.27% on your crop production purchases, and then 0.78 for commercial and 1.18 for ag petroleum volumes. We're also excited to let you know that we're passing on 100% of our domestic production activities deduction. The rates for this will come to 11.0458 for your per hundredweight for your grain and 5.536% on your crop production purchases. You'll receive this tax deduction from us on your 1099s that you receive in January. Disclaimer, the Garden City Co-op does not give tax advice, so we do advise you to talk to your tax preparers on how to best take advantage of this tax deduction. Wrapping up, a financially strong local co-op is critical to the agricultural sector and for also creating value for you on your farms. We have to be profitable to be able to continue to provide you with fast elevators that have adequate space, deliver innovative crop production practices to your farm, ensure a solid supply of diesel to you, and ultimately be able to deliver on the promises that we make. When times are tough for farmers, times are tough for your local co-op as well. You are all strong Western Kansas farmers, though, and we know you will endure these tough times. So we wish you success, and we can't be financially strong without your support. Thank you.